It's not
Yep.
a legalistic crime. What they've done with the IRS is they've convinced the people who are fearful of the IRS, who are fearful of overreaching government. They've convinced those people that they should remain paranoid. They have said, this is why you were worried, because we really do the thing that you were worried about. So I think that's solid now. I don't think you're going to turn that around. Now, the next question becomes, how do we make sure we're not sucked into either side? And I would say, to answer the question I've been asking you, right? I'm asking you for a direct answer.
I don't know why I'm here.
You know what I'm saying? I'm asking you for the answer, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
Who's the biggest evil right-winger? You got to name a name. You got to name a name. Yeah, name a name. I mean, somebody that you right on the tip of your tongue. Nixon. You would not say Nixon was the worst right-wing evil, and people worship him today, and they believe in that same right-wing evil. They would use the IRS as a Republican, get on the phone, the same way the IRS that's, in other words, that sets the playing field for the honest Americans. Anybody who says to me, I'm kind of mostly if you're mostly anything, they got you. So we are looking for the real independent mind to be the 1776. 1776 was not sold out to one side, basically, and then hating it. That's what Washington said would wreck us. So anyway, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think about the fierce independence of the unaffiliated? What do you think about that? The people who refuse to join either side. What do you know?
Well, I think it's to quote Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "I'm not going to search for a consensus so that I can lead it. I'm going to be a molder of consensus."
Nice.
I think we all have a tough road to hoe in front of us when we do that, but that's what a pioneer does. And then later on we build great roads, and we worship the one who made the road instead of the one who blazed the path. But our path has been set. Our founders gave us a constitution. And Washington said, don't hastily reform this constitution. Let it be by amendment, like the Constitution prescribes. Nowadays, we're not even paying attention to it. It's not even on the table. It's used as a pet word to say something is constitutional or unconstitutional because I like it or I don't like it. I find oftentimes the best way to find out when a stick is crooked is lay the straight one next to it.
That's funny. That's funny, but let's use the language of the amendments. Are you you're conversant in them, right? What's the language of the amendments that you feel people are ignoring today, where the real phrases are not in either the dialogue or in the behavior? Like, First Amendment is free speech, right? Religion. Among those headline amendments, where is an example of what you're saying? Hey, it's lost. They don't even live it.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the First Amendment, this was a poll that was done. Most people can't even say the 5 liberties that are guaranteed in the First Amendment. You name 2 of them. Can we name more? Can we talk about the press, the right of the people to peaceably assemble, petition the government for redress?
That's the question I'm asking you now. Did you hear the question? Yeah. I'm asking you. All right, so that's what I'm asking you. Pick one and tell me where it's missing in the public. Go ahead.
I think every single one of them has been violated. I really,
but you're not being specific. I'm asking for a specific.
Okay, First Amendment, I believe. The First Amendment.
Go ahead. The specific
case. Amendment is.
But First Amendment, be specific on a case that you're pointing to that is saying what you're saying, that it's missing. Show me an example.
This is good. I love this. Okay, so a great example is what happened with the AP. What's going on with the Fox News reporter?
Now.
I mean, you look at how the IRS has attacked who? Tea parties, conservatives, patriots, and even Christians because of their free speech.
All right. Now, what's the answer to this? Because earlier, I want to tie in your opening statement. I agree wholeheartedly with the founders. If this thing fails, it should be redone. But I'm also of the belief that you must understand something before you tear it down. And this is not the best informed generation. This is a horrible media environment where the public is as poorly informed as in many, many years. They're not literate. Well, even sentence structure is failing. But who's the actual congressperson? Who's the actual school board member? What are the actual votes that were cast for the budget? These are things nobody walks around with the way they did. When I was young, people walked around like that. They knew. I'll tell you the budget. I was there last Wednesday. They voted $750,000 for this, and I was there. That's the way people used to talk. Today, it's like, I don't know what they do. They're all liars. I don't know what they do. They're all liars. I don't know what they do. So this Chicken Little is only effective, if it's an informed Chicken Little. But I feel like we run to tear it down, start over. Well, I don't know. Did you open the hood? Did you change the hoses?
Exactly.
Did you? Yeah, go on. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's such a good point.
It is. You need specifics. I think you need specifics, right? To say we've tried everything. Yeah, go ahead.
Good point. And you do, because then that differentiates us between a mob and an actual republic of which we are. The system of government does not need to change. It's the people in them.
It is.
We have to trade, instead of trading tyrants and tyrannies within our system, right, left, whatever, we need virtuous men and women in there that will actually take seriously their oath that they made. And I think this is a key element before God, Ed. This is before God.
Now, you said it.
This is not before your fellow man.
That's right. You said it, and this is a famous quote of George Washington's. I don't know if you're doing it deliberately or he used the phrase, the presidency, especially, in particular, this is George talking about the office he invented. He said that the must be held by virtuous man.
That's right.
That's his quote. Now, I'm going to ask you a common sense question back to me, and we're not George Washington. He's dead. He can't help us.
Yep.
All right. So you and I, how old are a guy generally? You in your 30s?
Yep.
All right,
34.
perfect. So I'm 20 years ahead. I'm in my late 50s, 57. So two different points of view, but we're both grown-ups. Okay. Here's my premise. Here's my premise about what you're saying and George Washington is saying. What I've learned in 57 years, and at 30-something I might have said this, but now I'm sure, so I'm not going to expect you to see it the same way. But there's no way around that people are not virtuous. This is an immovable force like gravity. The way gravity formed the planet and Isaac Newton got bounced on the head with an apple, and the way the rain will never fly up, it will only fall during rainfall, so will dishonesty, murder, violence, etc. All the things in the Ten Commandments will continue to press on humanity. So my question to you is, mustn't we design a system that doesn't require virtue, so that if we can't get virtue, we don't go down with the ship? I don't believe in virtue. Like Obama, Clinton, even JFK, LBJ, Lincoln. There's no virtue. There's just negotiating the human flaws of dishonesty, power, acquisition. Sure. Okay, go on. How do you tackle that?
You brought up a fundamental principle right there, and this is important to understand. Man inherently is evil and wicked. Madison and Hamilton both agreed if they were angels, we wouldn't need a strong central government. As a matter of fact, Hamilton said that out of all the political, goodness and ingenuity and genius, the biggest political weapons are still going to be, and this was at that time, avarice, vice. And he goes on to explain all the frailties of man.
The eternal truths. Those are the eternal truths that transcend.
So we've got to look to the eternal God then, right there. Well, we knew that man was a sinful creature that must be redeemed. Right. That redemption comes through the blood, the shed blood of Jesus Christ. If our churches and our pulpits, and de Tocqueville understood this. He said, I went to look for the genius of America through its government institutions, through its roadways, through its education system. It was not until I went into a church and I saw the pulpits ablaze with fire that I saw the greatness of America and where it stood. Because the people were committed to becoming virtuous. Why? Before God, not before a political system, not before their fellow man who only sees them part of the time, but before God who sees them all times. That's why when Washington swore his oath, when he became a president, he had his hand on the Bible on Deuteronomy 28, the blessings and the cursings. If you obey me, keep my commandments, I will bless you. If you disobey me, I will curse your land. Then he kissed the Bible. Then from there he added, so help me God, to the oath. He took and marched Congress over to a church service before they convened. They had a divine church service right there. The pastor prayed over them, and then they went back to the Capitol, then they convened. That was the first act of Congress right there, according to the Constitution that we are under right now. People understood this is before God. And if we can keep that, then guess what? We're going to be virtuous. If we can't, Roger Winthrop, former Speaker of the House, said that if people will, in a word, must be ruled by God. Either by God or by tyrants, either by the Bible or by the bayonet. Is it not true? We take off thou shalt not kill off our school walls. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. What kind of problems are we having now? And the Supreme Court is the one who said you can't have it. It's not permissible. We take out prayer from school. But this is where I get hope, and I was talking to Mr. Buchanan about this yesterday on our show. When you see these youth all throughout the country tearing up their quote-unquote school board-approved speeches, and they start thanking the God of the Mosaic institution and Jesus Christ their Lord, the whole school erupts because they know that they're being neglected from that virtue, which is good, that it's going to be the only stability of our republic, and it's going to be the only way we're going to have peace and prosperity, and we're even going to maintain in this world, man.
You know, it's interesting because you say it so fast. Do you really believe that, or I understand that we'd want that? That's a goal, but I don't think that's scientifically sound. Now I know Pat longer. I know Pat Buchanan since 1982. That's when he first came on the show in Crossfire, and Tom Braden was around. I mean, Pat's one of my great heroes. He went to Columbia. I love Pat. So I don't know what Pat.
You guys are my seniors.
There you go. So you know what I mean. You picked the right guy. Yep. The more you talk to Pat Buchanan, the better things are going to go. I don't believe though that Pat. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. So let me ask you. You're in your 30s, okay? You're watching what's going on here. I'll present it this way. The evidence of whether people are interested in that subject that you just addressed, the connection between a spiritual guidance and a conformity in society that would bring about this beautiful execution of liberty. In other words, instead of, being told by the government what to do, your higher father, I think George W. Bush would say his higher father, led him pretty well. So if he obeys his higher father, he'll be fine. America, in my lifetime, born in the 50s, and now we're in the 2010s, has abandoned a church. The pews are emptier now on Christmas. No, on high holiday. No, when the TV cameras are there. No, but I'm talking about in ordinary life. Yeah. I lament it, but I don't argue with it. I don't know that you're going to be able to argue people back into having faith.
No, you can't. You're right. You can't do it by reason.
Right. So how do you get hopeful? I don't necessarily disagree with your calculus, but how do you get hopeful about applying your calculus to the 2013 June 7th that you and I are living today, which is a week of Jodi Arias is still not punished, and she killed the guy 9 ways to Sunday. The FBI is investigating you. The Attorney General knows your tax form. The other guy is a reporter, and he's protected by the First Amendment, but not if he's a co-conspirator with a terrorist. It's an insane world. How do you apply what I hear you say to the snapshot of the reality we're in? How does it work out? Because I'm interested. This is a big challenge, I think.
I can only speak to experience. We just did a tour. We were in North and South Carolina.
Right.
We bring the same message that I just, my montage for the last 5 minutes was where I was speaking to those issues. I know that at one time in our country, that is exactly where we were. We had these ideals in place. I'll give you an example. Back in the day of our founding fathers, and then I know we want to bring the solution. How do we do it? Let me just make a distinction here. Just because church attendance is down does not mean that people's faith is down. I don't blame people for not going to most churches out there, frankly. I wouldn't attend. There's very few mainline denominational churches that I would just attend because I think they're lifeless and they're dead. It's like MLK in the 60s. People believed, this is what they told him, that God was dead. They went to church to feel good about themselves, to meet each other, to hear some good poetry, etc. It was the moral thing to do. And he said, no, on the contrary, God is very much alive. But he wasn't alive in the churches. He was alive when he went out and marched, and when he loved his neighbor as himself. And we started seeing some liberty for people that have been oppressed. And that's where I try to find it. We go into public high schools all over the country, and we preach the Constitution. We speak about our personal experience and testimonies to a fatherless generation who is dying for that security. That's where I find hope. I find hope when I was 17, going to a mainline denominational church, and I hated it. I was in sex, drugs, and rock and roll when I was a kid. That's what I loved to do. And then the epiphany hit me, where God confronted me. And it wasn't a reason thing. It was a spiritual experience. And that's my testimony. Nobody can convince me out of it. In the beginning of our country, there was this is a study that was done by law professors Donald Lutz and Charles Heinemann. And they studied what was it that gave our founders the greatness, the ingenuity, the mind to come up with the Constitution. They found that out of all of the